All right. I'm going to call this meeting of the Township of Ocean Planning Board to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Kaplan?
Here.
Mr. Deal?
Present.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Here.
Mr. Goslin?
Here.
Mr. Manel?
Here.
Ms. Valente?
Here.
Mr. Bognovich? Mr. Mamie?
Here.
Vice Chairman Palutis?
Here.
And Chairman DeFuria.
Here. Salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the notice having been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster and filed in the office of the Township Clerk. There is an emergency exit through the courtroom doors and 2 exits at the rear of the room. There is no smoking, and that includes vaping or e-cigarettes. Board policy: no new cases will be started after 10 p.m. and no new testimony taken after 10:30 p.m. In addition, the applicant will be limited to 45 minutes of testimony. All meetings will be video and audio taped and shown on the Township of Ocean's Community Cable Channel, Channel 22 on Verizon Fios, and Channel 1300 on Cablevision. All cell phones must be turned off, or if you need to make a call, please make your call outside the meeting room. We do have one minor change to the agenda this evening. After our resolutions, we have a time extension request that we're going to be adding in. So first off, correspondence. You should have all received in your packets an application for a letter of interpretation. Line verification has been submitted to the NJDEP, Division of Land Resource Protection, for 1610 Route 35, Block 34, Lot 11 in the Township of Ocean. I think it was pretty self-explanatory. That's Orchard Plaza. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Resolution memorialization. Shlomo Jamal as trustee of the Lisa Jamal 2018 Irrevocable Trust, 1012 Norwood Avenue, Block 11, Lot 10 in the R4 zone. Do I have a motion to move that resolution?
A motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Goslin?
Yes.
Mr. Manel?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Palutis?
Yes.
And Chairman DeFuria.
Yes. All right, next resolution memorialization. Rebecca and Eric Brown, Ryan and Gabriella Sherman in estate of Albert F. Koenig, 1298 Wickapico Drive, Block 140, Lot 1.01 in the R6 zone. Do I have a motion to move this resolution?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Goslin?
Yes.
Mr. Manel?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Palutis?
Yes.
And Chairman DeFuria.
Yes. All right, and now for the time extension. BC Brielle LLC, 3501 Brielle Avenue, Block 183, Lot 7, is requesting an extension of the resolution that was memorialized on September 23rd, 2024. Mr. Lexstein, can you give us any background on this?
So they're still in the process of trying to solidify all their approvals, including the bylaw review, which has been presented to me. I need to go over those, but there are other things that they're doing as well. So they're asking for a 1-year extension of the resolution.
Do you have any concerns with
I
that?
don't have any concerns with it.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to move and accept this request for an extension? All
I make a motion. Second.
right, roll call, please.
Mark, can everybody vote on this?
Yes.
Yes. Councilwoman Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Deal?
Yes.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Goslin?
Yes.
Mr. Manel?
Yes.
Ms. Valente?
Yes.
Mr. Mamie?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Palutis?
Yes.
And Chairman DeFuria.
Yes. All right. We have no new cases this evening, but we do have a presentation. Topology LLC will present a redevelopment investigation report for the property designated as Block 25, Lot 2.01 on the Township's tax map and commonly known as 399 Monmouth Road, as to whether all or a portion of the area hereinafter described meets the criteria for an area in need of redevelopment pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-5 and should be designated as such. And I turn it over to our friends from Topology.
Hi, I'm glad to be back. My name is Golden McMillan. I believe you guys met Phil Abramson from Topology. This is our second preliminary investigation that we're presenting to Ocean Township. This one's unique because we're actually sitting in the building that we're going to be discussing. So I want to say that we're probably pretty familiar with the municipal complex, but having said that, the local housing redevelopment law has a very, detailed and fine criteria of how to designate, and I'm going to walk you through the process of this building with the local housing redevelopment law, which the governing body earlier this year passed a resolution to have this building study to see if it meets the area in need, and the conclusion is we're going to say yes, and that's the purpose of tonight, and then we'll conclude with any questions and what happens from here afterwards. So I'm just going to kind of go through it. If
Go
you
for
have
it.
any questions, I tend to talk. I sometimes talk fast. If you need me to slow down, just let me know, okay? Oh, hi, Colleen. So, agenda, pretty much just already laid that out, but we're going to go over the overview, the criteria, what our findings were, and those next steps. So, just a very high-level snapshot. I have an upcoming slide that's going to get a little more detailed, but this is 399 Monmouth Road. I've already said it for the record, but I'll say it for the record. Block 25, Lot 2.01. It was formerly known as Block 25, Lot 2. Had to go back and forth when that happened, and about 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, there was actually a portion of land to the congregation to the north where there was land acquired. And so as recent as 10 years ago, that subdivision, or I guess you can say a merger between the two lots had occurred. But this is a snapshot of the area. It's in a residential neighborhood south of this congregation, and then it's at the intersection of Deal Road and Monmouth Road. So, as I said, we were retained to study this in pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A. That's the area in need of redevelopment statute, specifically non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment. The governing body passed that resolution to do that study back in April, and the report has been submitted to the town since August 14th, the day before my birthday. Wanted to make sure I got this out before that day. And so it's been on file since. So what we're going to do is we're going to hear it, and then the municipal council can either accept, reject, or modify anything of the designation because it's tonight's proceeding. So what an area in need of redevelopment study does is it's a starting point. And so from here, the remainder of the process is up to the municipality. And what could happen from here is a redevelopment plan could be conducted and adopted for this area. Right now, we're just at the study. It would enable that should this planning board find it in an area in need. And what that redevelopment plan could do is adopt new zoning controls, a little different than your traditional zoning, have different types of tax incentives. It's a little more flexible than your traditional zoning. That's down the road, should the township pursue that. What tonight is just the study, though, to see if it's eligible, if it meets that criteria. So I think I already said some of this background, but I've probably done more site visits than these two dates, just because as a consultant planner, we've been coming here a lot this summer. But officially, my office, we've come out May and June of this year to get some aerial photographs, interior photographs, pull records, really study this in context of this study in particular. All tax records, whatever permits, whatever we could find in terms of what was available to us, we requested and reviewed to help support this, as well as looking at historic maps and just historic reviews where possible. So I think I said most of this, but this is a 3-acre site. It was built in the 1950s, and it serves as your municipal complex. It's in the R2 low density single family zone. We always like to just kind of know a baseline of where we are to bring our study forward. And what we do is we look at historic aerials because I know it was kind of difficult to get the original site plan. I don't even think we were able to get the original site plan. I know when you do site plan reviews, it's a little different when you're a government zoning, and you might not have some of the same type of process as a traditional site plan would. But what we wanted to do is kind of get an idea of the age of this building, because one of our criteria we're going to talk about is a little bit about the age and infrastructure. And as far as we can see from the aerials, as well as a report I'm going to introduce when I get into the criteria, this building was built, started in some point in the 50s, we believe between 1953 and 1957, just based on the aerial when the development occurred. And what we can see through these series when we go through decades worth of historic aerials is there's additions and building additions, parking additions, expansions that occurred to this building over time. As soon as the 60s, and then bringing us into the 90s, and then even the post subdivision I was just referring to earlier, there was even more parking added to the top. So different sections of buildings built over time. So the conditions today, it's a multi-level building, approximately 30,000 square feet. I call it multi-level. I say lower level, first level, second level, third level. There's not actually, I would say, a traditional 3-story building. It's kind of a split level building. Everyone's nodding their heads. I think we're all familiar. You would even, I guess this is the lower level, technically the courtroom, meeting room that we're sitting in the police department. There is a first level kind of towards Monmouth there, where you kind of get the entrance, and the finance department leads you to the second level where the a lot of the building and planning and zoning and administrative offices are, up to the third level. And according to this site plan that we were able to pull from 2015, which was prepared by Greg Blash, who I believe is the township engineer, 139 parking spaces. So the statutory criteria and what our findings were. So I've already talked a lot about the purpose, but it can't just be, hey, there's a little substandard issue here, or hey, maybe this, little issue here. You really have to collectively look at all of the evidence and find substantial evidence on the record. And this could be through interior inspections, which we did, exterior inspections, permits, every record that we pulled. Just to really analyze what we're looking at here. And what we found is the main criteria that this building will meet is criteria A. Speaks about generality of buildings that are substandard, unsafe, unsanitary, dilapidated, obsolescent, or possess any characteristics of or lacking in light, air, space to be conducive to unwholesome living or working conditions. And then we also would like to apply criteria H here, which Ocean Township being where it is on major networks and major highways. I'll get into more discussion when I get into criteria H, but ultimately doing a designation here does lead to smart planning. So criteria A has several points in there. It does not need to meet every point. It doesn't need to be N unsafe, N unsanitary. It needs to just meet some of these points and to be conducive to unwholesome living or working conditions. So I underlined the specific observations we had, and that is that the generality of the buildings we find are substandard and obsolescent, and that they possess these characteristics, and that we believe it leads to conducive to unwholesome. I say living because I'm going to talk about the police and how they get ready and shower here, even though nobody actually lives in this building, but there's a little bit of that habitability to the building, but definitely certain for working conditions in our findings. So I'm going to show a series of photos and kind of describe what you're looking at. Before I do that, any questions or? Okay. I think you guys have done this a lot already. So specifically to the substandard characteristics. So not in any particular order other than I just kind of put them in an order. So what you're looking at is the roofing and some water damage. In our report, we put an appendix in it, which is your township engineer's report that he conducted, not to do with our study. There's overlap. Our study is more specific to does it meet criteria for area in need of redevelopment. His study is more about the existing facility assessment is what he calls it. But it's a reliable source by a professional that's licensed who did an observation. We did our own site inspections and, reviewed his report, and we are relying on some of the evidence in this report, which you're going to see. So I just wanted to say that too. So substandard roofing, water damage. So based on the report and kind of what we're seeing with some imagery, which I have no reason not to believe what the engineer says, the roofs are over 20 years old and that there's been multiple active leaks, and that's been confirmed through both there's a gable roof and a flat roof portion. It's happening on all those roofs per this report, and that there's been multiple attempts that have been failed, which is just leading to more and more interior damage, which my next slide I'm going to show you some water damage pictures that we took. And that it's becoming very costly to replace these things. The engineer did estimate a cost about $800,000 for both a gable and a flat roof, because over time there's just been deferred maintenance going on with patching up the roofs, kind of fixing the issues, but not long-term fixing them. Just kind of oh, sorry, just beeping got me distracted for a second.
Do we need to pause? Are you guys good over there?
The sound isn't working.
Hold, please.
Test. Were you able to catch anything I said?
Oh,
There it is.
What? Say it again?
Test. I hate to redo everything.
No, you're fine because it's recording upstairs.
Okay.
Is the equipment not working? Count towards the report.
I was nervous I was gonna have the tech problem when I.
Can this be added?
Is that true?
Can this be added to the list?
yeah, add this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Real-time addendums.
Yeah.
Boy, her elevator worked on the way.
Do we need to hold up while you're
I just
doing
want to
this?
make sure that Tom Riddle is recording this.
Okay.
I don't know if tech counts as substandard.
Yeah, right.
I go down there to hang out, just fish like little poles.
People would go swimming there, right?
Okay. Okay.
All right, let's continue.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, in summary, the roof, it's over 20 years old. It's definitely just reached its end of its life. I'm showing you now the next slide, which are some photos of what we believe are the results of some of this roof leak issue and just stained ceilings. This is both in the town hall and in the police station. We also found water infiltration in the town hall basement, which to us is a visible sign of moisture that's present. We were able to observe dirt and sediment buildup, which means there's some water entry happening. Warping is also consistent to water exposure. We see these on the stairs leading down here. So the issues are becoming widespread because of the water and the moisture. It doesn't seem like it's just your roof alone, and that it's really actually impacting the inside of your building. And this isn't just like inconvenient. This can really disrupt some daily functions of what is a municipal complex that does, public service functions. The next series of photos came from the existing facility assessment, and I have had correspondence back and forth with the police director of the police department, who has basically confirmed his observations too, which is there has been sewage backup in the police departments, especially in the classrooms and the hallway area. This creates an unsanitary, what we find to be very substandard condition, and definitely poor work environment. Not nice to be in this kind of condition. Per the facility assessment report, we also read that the hot water systems are been a problem in the town hall. It has to do with the way some of the plumbing recirculation loops are engineered. I defer mostly to this report. I won't pretend like I'm an engineer, but what I can conclude from the report is that there is a hot water system and a delay in hot waters that are happening per the town engineer in his observation. And this would definitely affect hygiene and just how you use water here in Town Hall daily. We also read that it's an issue in the locker rooms for the police station, which definitely impacts basic hygiene and employee safety. So that's why I said living conditions, not just working conditions, but a little bit of an element of a living condition when you have to, get ready here like that. And so the plumbing issues, what we're finding is it's really beyond the leaks. Actually, it's within the infrastructure. So it's more than just a health issue. It's an operational issue. What we concluded out of the facility assessments report is that this is also incurring a lot of ongoing maintenance expenses, and that the sewer backups just kind of keep continuing, and that there isn't quite a cause yet, but there has been cost to fixing these issues. So this is a risk. This is substandard in our opinion. So the HVAC system, it's found to be, per this facility assessment report, quite outdated and a bit unreliable, and it's inconsistent. Apparently it gets very cold in certain months and then too hot, and you have to put windows open in the summertime. And so there's really like an inconsistent stabilization of temperatures. And some of this could be because of the building layout. There's multiple sections to this building. And what this assessment report also concluded is that it will be significant to repair this type of equipment too. And that over time, nearly, over $150,000 is spent in over 3 years just because of these aging units. And it also kind of makes it quite difficult for finding like replacement parts when we find aging HVAC systems. And that these are just, it would seem, what I would conclude from this report is that they're pretty much nearing the end of their life. So other substandard findings that we observed are the kind of the spaces themselves for working here, and that there isn't really a lot of space for some of your staff. There is no ability to add any new departments here. As you can see, the building's been added on over the years. In fact, it seems that 2 of the departments are actually off-site. It would be the Recreation and the Human Services Department aren't even located on your building. I wouldn't say that that's unusual. I've worked in towns where there's buildings where you have off-site departments. But it does show that there is no more expansion, no more space in this to add any more services. In talking to the police chief, in actually a presentation he gave the town council back in March 18th, 2025, which is public record. I believe we refer to it in our report. They did a presentation at the council meeting, and they talked about how the police station really is full of capacity and that there's really no more room for any storage. The lockers are all maxed out, and that there's just no more space to add anything. We're curious, the building is almost 70 years old. Something kind of from a planning perspective we observed is this building, back in like the 70s, we looked up what the population was, and it was about 18,600 in Ocean Township. And the most recent American Community Survey, you're at, nearly 28,000. So you're at 10,000 more people, but what's kind of the same space. So as you have a growing population, growing records, growing need for government services, same amount of space, starts to kind of get a little overcrowded here. And it's worth noting that this is impacting the essential services. It's a government operation. We're not just overcrowding. I'm not saying that a business is not more important than another, but this is specifically a function that serves the public welfare and safety. It's a police station, it's government, so that's just something worth keeping in mind. So what you have before you is just kind of a breakdown of all the square footages of the lower level, the first level, the second level, and the third level. I won't read everything, it's in the report, but what you see highlighted are the spaces that are less than 200 square feet per employee. Just a little baseline of when some of the spaces are a little more tight. I know that some of the spaces share employees. It's not, I wouldn't say unusual not to have an office for everybody, but there's a lot of shared spaces here. And what this next series of photos are showing is that a lot of the storage capacity is very maxed out. Based on what we read in the assessment report, the attic is over capacity. There's no more space there. Older files are being moved off site. And that there's just not a lot of solution to other than maybe like digitalizing and getting more in this century. But right now, you know, there's crowded hallways. There's things blocking some of the storage space. So we find that to be kind of a substandard way of doing business. So going to obsolescence, there is a bit of a just disjointedness of a layout to this building. I remember the first time I came here, I went in, I think all 3 entrances before I found the right one that I needed to be in. As I said, the building is nearly 70 years old. There's been additions over time. There wasn't really like a unified site plan. We couldn't find an original site plan. It seems like there's been additions over time. And even some of the spaces have been repurposed to different uses. So there were spaces that were originally the library and now it's office space. And so what this is kind of resulting in and what we're observing is a little bit of a functional obsolescence and inefficiency. There's 3 separate public entrances, but none of them seem to have an internal connection between them. And so what's happening is we see that maybe visitors are entering and re-entering. And so this is all just very obsolescent in design. It creates confusion. It's definitely just inefficient. And it could even be a pedestrian safety concern at times when there's strange movement from entrance to entrance. So this is just like an aerial we took of kind of the 3 main entrances. In addition, we reviewed with the police chief and reviewed back in March what he had presented to the council, and that the police department as well has a very disconnected layout, and that the garage to the book-in route, it requires the prisoners to actually go through public hallways, which is a little less than ideal just because of how it's connected, and that could be a concern for safety as well. So again, it's not just inconvenience, it also is a bit of a security risk when these things happen. Based on the assessment report, there really is no practical remedy because a lot of this is structural. So then kind of going a little out of the building and looking more at the layout, this is the northern parking lot where one would have to cross the drive aisles and the parking lots really to get into the buildings. Those red arrows are the entrances. And what we see is we don't really see the most safe direct route to the building, and this could increase, accidents and definitely confusion, and it's definitely confusing for a layout for what would I would say undermine public safety, especially again as a police department here. So continuing with obsolescence, just observing the elevator and the ADA compliance here. There's 2 elevators in this town hall and they're all outdated. We've been told that there's been frequent breakdowns and even an emergency rescue before. It appears that they probably date back to the original building, which, going back to when this first was constructed in the 50s and substantially additions into the 70s, has a different kind of design than what you would see in a traditional elevator today. But there has been a lot of money accrued just to kind of keep this the elevators operational. And so this is really kind of impactful when it comes to disabled visitors, to keep that in mind, and puts the town possibly at risk about ADA compliance. So we find that to be a very obsolescent issue as well. And then lastly, I think this is the last photo. So there's this drive aisle that we observed, and we talked a little bit to the police, somebody in the police department. I know when we did our site visit, and they were kind of talking about the garage. I won't quote them because I don't know exactly what they said, but it made us look at this a little closer. And what we found is that there was a little bit of an unusual layout and what we're going to call obsolescent layout to this drive aisle. And what you see here is 90-degree parking happening with parallel parking, happening with angle parking, happening with a garage, all in the same aisle. Where the aisle at points was about, we can measure kind of 14 feet from this parking space to the building area where the garage is. And per the town ordinance, the 24 feet minimum is required for all perpendicular spaces. So I don't want to go as far as say like unsafe here because I'm not an engineer, but I would say it's kind of an obsolescent layout just over time to have such different parking spaces with the garage, different angles, narrow and compliant with one of your drive widths zoning code. So we went as far as putting it into our report as an obsolescence, especially because it's an emergency personnel driveway in particular.
All right, Golda, I'm going to stop you real quick. Looking at the time, are there any members of the public here tonight for this presentation who may have questions that they want to ask? Do I have a lot of questions from my board right now, or can we have 5 minutes, Colleen, to finish this up? All right.
So that was the substantial part. The part probably I had to say the most on the record. That was conclusion to criteria A. Criteria H talks about how you can designate if it's consistent with smart growth and planning principles, which we've done this before in Ocean, and mostly because Ocean is a town with mixed land uses and transportation, and so we wanted to apply criteria H as well, and that there's access to roads. It's approximately 1.5 miles away from a New Jersey train station that serves the North Jersey coastline. So kind of just studying this in the first place as an area in need of redevelopment, and whatever happens thereafter is in line with what is smart growth principles. That's basically the same thing, just talking about the smart growth on the state level. But that's really it. So our conclusion is that, based on what we're seeing here, there's substandard and obsolescent characteristics here, especially those that serve a building that is essential to public functions. And so we believe because of criteria A and criteria H, and I'm sorry, this says B, D, and H, so that is a typo I have in front of you. I'm sorry. Criteria A and H, that this meets the area in need of redevelopment. So that's tonight. Your board attorney will, I think, direct you on what to do from here, but thereafter, then the governing body will have their own process as well.
All right, members of the board, do you have any questions for our presenter? Do you have any questions about what we're doing next? All right, Mark?
So I'll just give the usual speech that this is not a question of whether you like redevelopment, you think redevelopment's a good idea, it's a bad idea. That's not your choice. That is the choice of the town council. All this board does is determine whether or not the case has been made that the property in question meets the criteria. And if you find that it does, then you're obligated to make that finding that it does meet the criteria H and criteria A as have been set forth in the report. But this is not it's not your role to decide whether you think it's a good idea or not.
All right. Do you want to have any discussion on this? Is there anything anyone would like to say? Any commentary? I will just add that anyone who spent any amount of time in this building or has spoken to the folks who have to work here every day has heard all of these points. There's something that I learned years ago in infrastructure, that if you take a gallon of clean water and a gallon of sewage, you get 2 gallons of sewage. And that's not good for any of our town hall employees, and definitely not for the folks coming in here. So that is a serious concern. And I understand that is a issue that has been ongoing for years.
Just to add, with the police station, we're also exposing the town and civilians to a lot of liability. With their Sallyport situation, under the rulings coming from the Department of Corrections, a prisoner is not supposed to be exposed to civilian areas. Now, they've probably made arrangements that allow that person to be walked down that area, but that's not acceptable, and that can lead to real serious consequences. So a lot of things are going on over there. It's usually not acceptable. How it's been allowed, obviously the building is the building, and they've made arrangements, but that's very dangerous and can pose a lot of threats. These are things that need to be addressed.
I think also, that you had brought up how there's 3 civilian entrances to this facility, which I think is very dangerous, where there's no proper screening of visitors, or at least like this entrance, there's 0 during the day as far as I know. It is, I think, a danger to the public, in my opinion, from that alone. Plus what you added, I think there's significant dangers here.
All right. Any members of the public? All right. Do I need to close public hearing on this, or
You don't,
okay?
I don't need a formal motion.
All right. So then, do I have a motion to accept this study and make a determination that this is an area in need of redevelopment?
And Mr. Chairman, I did prepare a resolution if you want to do that as a single motion, assuming you're going to make that designation.
And accept Mr. Lechstein's resolution to that end.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Capper?
Yes.
Mr. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Goslin?
Yes.
Mr. Manal?
Yes.
Ms. Valente?
Yes.
Mr. Meany?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Candace?
Yes.
And Chairman DeFilia?
Yes. All right. With no further business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.